it's now time to begin our SIR Award presentation. To give you a little history on the SIR Award, in 1983, AGC Georgia established this award to honor individuals who have distinguished themselves for their exemplary service and substantial contributions to the industry. Individuals receiving the SIR Award exemplify what is meant by skill, integrity, and responsibility. So it's now a great honor for me to announce our 38th honoree for the SIR Award, Mr. Dan Baker. Dan is chairman and CEO of Duffey Southeast Incorporated, which is headquartered in Cedartown. Throughout his more than 40 years in construction, Dan has made it a priority to be engaged and to give back to the industry. His passion for being a part of the team that values working to make the industry better is significant to the success of AGC Georgia. Dan has served in countless roles for AGC Georgia, AGC of America, and CompTrust AGC Mutual Captive Insurance Company. And on your tables, you can find a much more detailed account about Dan's service to our industry. Dan graduated with a BS in Civil Engineering from the University of Alabama. Dan, and my script says for me to give you a big roll tide, but I can't bring that, I can't do that. And I think my fellow Auburn alumni would probably clobber me if I did that. But we are proud of you and we're certainly proud of you for getting this award. So now we have a video to share with you in honor of Dan, and then his daughter Danny will come and share a few words about her dad. So please watch the video.
Now, what I've witnessed over the last 35 years is Dan's true passions in life are Alabama football, family, Alabama football, hunting, Alabama football, fishing, Alabama football, music, and growing corn.
Never had any doubt that Dan could do something like this. His ability to talk to people is unheard of and has great understanding and is a great leader. So proud of what he's been able to do with Duffey Southeast.
Dan and his loyalty and his personal loyalty, I think, toward everybody that he would consider a friend or worthy. And I think that's something you just see from Dan is his personal loyalty. And, along the way, Dan's a lot of fun.
Smart, hardworking, dedicated, someone that would persevere, and Dan certainly met all those qualifications.
He took a company that had no assets and no business and built it into the multi-million-dollar company it is today, which is incredible.
I am Harold Wyatt. My previous title was President of H.E. Haney Incorporated, a general contracting firm headquartered here in Cedartown. My relationship with Dan began when I hired him in 1988 to go to work as a project manager for H.E. Haney Incorporated. He was a civil engineer and graduate from University of Alabama. I excused him for that because I was Georgia Tech. He was exactly the kind of person I was looking for to work as a project manager for Haney. I'd sold H.E. Haney and was retiring. I made Dan president. He worked as president with H.E. Haney, but it was owned by a construction management company out of California. And not too long after I left the company and retired, they decided that they were going to let Dan go. And so the outgrowth of that was that he formed Duffey Southeast, headquartered here in Cedartown, is now back in the original H.E. Haney office building. And with him, most of the H.E. Haney employees followed Dan over to Duffey. So while Duffey's a different name and a much larger successful company than Haney was. It grew out of H.E. Haney.
My name is Mike McCrae. Good evening to everyone that's here at the award ceremony. And I was the lawyer for H.E. Haney Company, the predecessor to Duffey Southeast. Harold Wyatt sold H.E. Haney to a Fortune 100 company, huge multinational company. After that was done, Dan worked for them for a while, and he and a number of the employees, things were not going well, and in his opinion. And so he came to me and said, I think I'm going to start a new company. And I said, well, Dan, I know this is a very specialized telecommunication construction industry and business. Do you have any work? No. Do you have the ability to bond and contract? No. Have you thought about where your offices are going to be? We can't have any offices, we don't have any money for that. So when he left my office the day we formed Duffey Southeast in 2002, I prayed for him and I said, this is not only a leap of faith, but it might be like trying to leap from one side of the Grand Canyon to the other. Fast forward from that, about a year or so later, he said, we've gotten some business. We hadn't folded yet. Fast forward a couple of more years from that, and he calls me and says, we're doing fine. We do have a good bit of business. And I've paid off the Duffey folks for what they've done, and they've been great to me, and it's been a wonderful operation. And so I now own the company, and we continue to grow. I thought, wow, that's really kind of amazing. It was amazing because of Dan Baker and because of the people he had surrounded himself with who did great quality work within that niche of the construction industry.
I'm Dennis Engelbrecht, and been a consultant to the construction industry, a leadership consultant, for the last 25, 30 years or so. Dan and I have had a very friendly and pretty close business relationship over time. Very much admired Dan and his kind of approach to life. Always, definitely a lot of personal belief. Very positive guy. Very dedicated and devoted to his business. And took it very personally. And, the AGC has a motto, and Dan for Duffey Southeast has adopted that same motto as their mission. So he has really lived, eaten, and breathed what that organization stands for. And I know, as he's been a defender of his own company, he's been a great defender of that organization and a great contributor to it. Dan's, it's interesting, he's been a client of mine for a long time, but he's been much more than that. Of course, he's been a friend. And he's been a friend from a business perspective. He's always been very supportive of our organization and of me personally.
I'm Myron Wilson. We've been best friends since we were 6 years old. Dan and I both grew up in Cedar Bluff, Alabama. We lived half a mile apart on old Highway 9, went to college, different places. Dan's Alabama all the way. We both attended and are members, still members, Cedar Bluff First United Methodist Church. Church means a lot to us.
Hello, AGC. My name is Jay Whiteside. Let me start by congratulating Dan Baker for receiving this award. What an honor. The SIR, you need to meet a lot of qualifications, skills, integrity, and responsibility. And Dan Baker has demonstrated that throughout the entire time I've worked with him. Very pleased with all the projects that we were able to complete.
My hope for the future of Duffey is that it continue on the fast track that it's on and become even more successful and rewarding to not only the employees but also to all the owners they are working for. You don't lead a construction company with 5 or 6 offices spread around unless you have outstanding leadership qualities.
If he hasn't won it yet, he certainly is the right person now. It feels like an honor to be able to, speak and help with this honor for Dan.
So when you talk about somebody deserving of an award like this, there is no person who has gone through more and come through more adversity and has decided and had the drive, the intelligence, the integrity, and all the other things it takes to take this business to where it was, to make Duffey what it is, and to also give back to the Georgia construction industry and the Association of Contractors that are providing him this award this evening. So the best thing I would say is he has gotten rid of all the Goliaths. He is now the Goliath, and he is the platinum standard of what this industry is about in the Southeast. Congratulations to you, and well deserved, my great friend, Dan Baker.
I've had the pleasure and honor to watch Dan over the past 35 years in his spiritual, professional, and personal life. And he truly has been guided by his walk in faith, the foundation of his life, and to me, the foundation of this award. The actual award being presented to Dan Baker is modeled after a Norman Rockwell painting called The Spirit of Construction. From this day forth, I will never be able to look at a Norman Rockwell painting or artwork without thinking of Dan Baker and the 35 years of friendship we have had. Without Dan Baker, A.G. Haney, Duffey Southeast Construction, I would never have been as successful as I was as a project manager, area manager with AT&T. They made my job so easy. And for that, I truly am grateful. It's not just Dan Baker, but it's his entire team, the entire company. They all have the same values as Dan Baker. Congratulations, my friend. A tremendous accomplishment. I'm very proud of you. Shaka.
I don't know how he does business with these large corporations, but I know he wouldn't keep their business if they didn't see him as I see him, and that what he tells me is right. I can trust it. That's why he has the same customers time and time again, because they trust what he tells them, and we're so proud of him. To Dan Baker, a job well done. This will continue long past you, and we thank you.
Gosh, well, I don't know how I follow up that video, but ladies and gentlemen, we're here to honor my dad, Dan Baker, for the Sir Award. When my dad initially asked me to do this introduction, I was extremely honored. But after a few weeks, I started to realize it's a pretty nerve-wracking thing to do. How do you introduce someone that you know and love so well? I asked him for any information that I could use to get started. I was thinking career achievements, things of that nature. The next week, he dropped off a book, Fearless and Persuasive Speaking, a communication guide for leaders. Along with a binder of notes from a Dale Carnegie speech training class. Keeping in mind, I do work full-time, and I have a 2-year-old and a 4-month-old. I absolutely did not open those books. So I am sorry, Dad, but bear with me as I do my best here. I have always been extremely proud of my dad's work ethic. I've always been impressed with my dad's ability to know how to do anything. If you don't believe me, just ask him. As I grew up, a saying in our house when I was a kid is, Daddy can fix anything. And honestly, there never was anything that my dad couldn't build or fix. This started before I was born with the building of our house. He was a professional at school projects. In 6th grade, I had a science project where we were tasked to build a volcano. To this day, I still don't know how that volcano was built, but I guarantee it shot the highest in the whole class. My dad has always taken extreme pride in tradition, from making sure I knew Auburn was absolutely not an option, to the way he ran his company. A lot of these traditions he carried on from his mentor, Mr. Harold Wyatt. One of these traditions was continuing a culture with respect for every employee. This is evident when many of the people sitting here today followed him after he was fired from Parsons and started Duffey Southeast from scratch. Another tradition he kept was focused around community. Growing up, every Christmas Eve, my dad had breakfast with his H.E. Haney family. After my husband joined Duffey in 2017, he also had a new Christmas Eve family. I'm thankful that Darren and Charity realized that not all traditions had to be kept to an exact T. Thank you. Growing up, my dad would always say, "What's your passion?" He is extremely lucky to have found his passion in commercial construction. He's always loved his work, so much that it didn't feel like work to him. This kept him dedicated to his career, and it obviously has paid off. Daddy, I don't tell you enough, but I'm extremely proud of you. It's my honor to introduce my dad, Dan Baker, as the 2023 recipient for the SIR Award.
So it's now my great pleasure to ask Mr. Dan Baker to join me and accept the 2023 SIR Award.
Well, so far, I've been surprised twice. My daughter making me cry. And that song. Thank you so much, Allison. Roll Tide. All right, so everybody that was here, I can't see you out there, but this morning and heard Chad Hymas, wasn't that outstanding? Absolutely. Yeah. Not just because he's so talented and in his delivery, but really heartfelt and really hit a string with passion, purpose, and well, don't expect that out of me. Okay, so we'll get started. But thank you, Lyndy, and Danny. Thank you so much for your kind words. I love you dearly. And a special thanks to our interviewees. That was outstanding. They were a little embellished comments, but I do appreciate it. Not going to complain. So let's see, introductions, family, friends, company members. This is long enough, so applause at the end, please. First and foremost, my beautiful wife, Leslie. If you will stand, please. My daughter Danny, who you met, and her husband Kyle Wilson. Dear friend, and for 35 years, best client a contractor could ever ask for. Serving AT&T for 42 years, Jay Whiteside and his wife Janet. Please stand. Personal and corporate attorney, friend, board member, Mike McCrae, wife Beverly. Thank you. And Myron mentioned it earlier, but my lifetime friend, in-law, yes, two best childhood friends forced their children to get married. And as hard as it is in Cherokee County, Alabama, to find someone to date that you're not related to, our beautiful 2 grandchildren are perfect in every way. Praise God. Dr. Myron Wilson and his wife, Susan. Please stand. So we were prepared to have our past president, CEO, and owner of H.E. Haney and my mentor and dear friend here with us tonight, but they became ill and called it off yesterday, but we miss them terribly. Our Duffey Southeast co-presidents, Brian Wesner and Darren Kynes, and their wives, Shauna and Rachel. And finally, far too many to name individuals, I'll miss somebody for sure, our Duffey Southeast family. If you will, all stand in a big round of applause for everyone. First and foremost, I'd like to thank God for the many blessings He's bestowed on our family and on me. My cup runneth over. And to my parents for their love that I'm sure at times was extremely difficult, and the sacrifices they made to prepare me as a man and for a career in engineering and construction. And a special thanks to my mama for enduring all the pain and broken blood vessels in her hand resulting from beating my ass when needed and often. Okay, my story. So let's see. So I'm told that my life started with Mama in the back seat of Daddy's Dodge Coupe. Well, you see, Mama went into labor very unexpectedly. It was 30 miles to the hospital, and they almost made it before I was delivered in the hospital parking lot. And I've used that excuse for my lifelong battle with impatience ever since. We got to go. But that's a very, very long story, so we're not going to go there. To the group of prior SAR recipients, our industry icons who served on the SIR nominating committee, many of which I have the privilege of calling my very close friends. Thank you so very much for this honor. So when thinking about others that I should owe my gratitude, it dawned on me I really should be searching for those that opened the door for me to experience this rich culture that is the Associated Contractors, General Contractors of America. It's been a blessing to be assembled with an extremely large group of peers, industry leaders. As a result of my AGC years, I've developed so many very deep friendships, and I truly appreciate the leadership roles I've been gifted with. So thinking about that is what brought me to the butterfly effect. In 1963, Edward Lorenz presented a hypothesis to the New York Academy of Science. His theory: a butterfly could flap its wings and set into motion air, which would move other molecules of air and eventually be capable of starting a hurricane on the other side of the planet. Well, why not? After his presentation, Mr. Lorenz was promptly laughed out of the conference. But after more than 30 years of the butterfly effect being the brunt of jokes, the scientific community was shocked when a group of physics professors proved the theory true. Now it's known as the law of sensitive dependence upon initial conditions. Hope you remember that. I'm a big fan of author Andy Andrews. Several years ago, Randy Hall and I had the chance to meet Andy at the entrance of the Bellagio Hotel in Vegas. I didn't recognize him at first, but Randy said rather loudly, "It's the Butterfly Man." Andy walked our way and was very gracious and spent a few minutes with us. But Andy is a very gifted author of novels, focused on perspective and purpose of life. One of his short stories, called The Butterfly Effect, is on your table. As a gift from me to you, I encourage you to take the copies with you. And if there's not enough on the table for those that would like a copy, there are plenty in the back, so please stop and pick one up before you leave. The book emulates the butterfly effect law by highlighting how a single act of a quite common person can reverberate and ultimately positively affect another individual's life, the greater good, the nation, or even the world. No doubt I'm extremely thankful to my mentor, Harold White, President, CEO, and owner of our predecessor company, A.G. Haney. Under his leadership, the company and our employees prospered. And I learned a lot about being a builder, about business ethics, how to become a critical thinker and a leader. Early on, I was so impressed with the value the company placed on our family of employees, and not just being a member of the AGC, but taking active leadership roles. As Haney managers, we were all encouraged to attend anything and everything AGC offered. I felt it was Harold's tool used to impress on us the importance of giving back to our industry and how deeply our company needed to honor the AGC motto, skill, integrity, and responsibility in our everyday business activities. Today, we continue to hold that respect for AGC and the positive effect it has on our organization. But still searching for that single event leading to my exposure in AGC, I realized it was a cold, crisp Saturday morning in February of 1988. I was at the local gym with a friend I'd met there, Johnny Stowe. At the time, I was employed as a design engineer for a local heavy equipment attachment manufacturer, Rome Plow Company. I enjoyed my work, but on this day, I was discouraged because the company was about to be sold to a Brazilian competitor. As we worked out, I told Johnny I was ready for a change. When we finished, Johnny said, "I'm leaving here to deliver some firewood to a friend. He's a construction contractor, and a while back he told me he's looking for an engineer. If you'll follow me to his house, I'll introduce you." On that day, I met Harold White. After Johnny left, Harold and I sat in his living room for a while and talked. A month later, I was working with H.E. Haney, and as they say, the rest is history. I haven't seen Johnny in many years, but I'm still eternally thankful for him going out of his way to introduce me to his friend, an event that forever changed the direction of my life. God calls us to action. He calls us every day. Let's always be alert to his call for us to fill the role of the butterfly effect. In closing, I'd like to leave you with a short prayer. It comes from the first verse of the hymn, number 420, in our Methodist hymnal, written by Edwin Hatch in 1886. And it goes, "Breathe on me, breath of God. Fill me with life anew, that I might love as thou dost love and do what thou wouldst do." I thank you so very much for this award.
connection with this video, I've had them to focus in on what is a cardboard diploma from Auburn University. Those of you who know Dan well know that Dan went to the University of Alabama. He is the most rabid, almost insane Alabama fan you've ever seen. But what nobody really knows is the secret as his lawyer. That I'm waiving attorney-client privilege this evening to tell you that he's always secretly wanted to be an Auburn fan. And in order for him to be an Auburn fan, you have to have a diploma from Auburn University. They're paying about 17 football coaches that no longer coach for them millions of dollars for doing nothing. Their diplomas now, when you graduate from Auburn, are completely blank. This is an honorary degree for Dan tonight. Dan can fill it in any way he wants to, like anybody that goes to Auburn. You just fill it in as to whatever your degree may be. And I want to congratulate him because I know this award is very prestigious. But secretly, Dan Baker has always wanted an honorary diploma from Auburn University. So he can fill it in. So what I want you to do tonight, when the ceremony is over, I want you to come up to him and congratulate him first on getting his blank honorary Auburn degree. Huh? Isn't that great? Probably better than a degree from the University of Alabama. But the second thing I want you to do is say, quote, "Congratulations, Barner," close quote. He will love you for it.